All right, moving along, I'm just going to reiterate, I'm going to show you the simple ontology module, but that module I've shown before, but I really want to try and capture this so that we can post it, because I find this to have a number of uses, and I want to make sure people are aware of how to use it. So I'm going to go to my external modules. I'll go ahead and get rid of these. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is out of here. So we start from scratch. All right. I'm going to go to my external modules. You're going to request the simple ontology module. I'm going to enable that. All right, now this is one where you need to configure it here. It's not something you configure within the project itself, you know, using a menu or whatever. You're going to do your configuration here. So I'm going to get rid of it 1 second, and I want to show you how this sort of appears. I'm going to open up my record status dashboard. Actually, I'm going to go to my designer, go to my screening form, and I'm going to add a field down here. And I'm going to make this a text box, and I'm going to say antibiotic. Okay, now, one of the things that are available is this ontology option. And the only option that's available normally is the BioPortal ontology service. And if you use this and you search, there are all of these pre-built ontologies for you to use. Now, I just think this is great, but there's a lot of situations where this is overwhelming to someone and they really want something more specific. For example, they only want to show a list of antibiotics. They don't want to show every medication that's known to man. So going to SNOMED or someplace like that that has an ontology of every drug that you can think of is not so helpful for them. They want to limit the search for and options for people that are using this particular ontology. So I'm just going to save this for the moment. Actually, I'm going to remove this ontology so that I can show you. So now I got a place for antibiotic. At the moment, it's just a text field. I'm going to go to my external modules and go find my simple ontology module. All right, now we're going to configure this, okay? And as we have shown in other demonstrations, if you want to add more than one ontology, just use the plus sign to add another ontology. But, you know, first let me show you this first one. So I'm just going to create an ontology category called drugs, and then an ontology name called antibiotic. I have an option to have a message if there were no results found. You can figure that out easily enough. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. So Now, you're going to select a value type. You can have a list of values, bar separated, or code and display. And I think the JSON option is not something I'd recommend for you at your stage of development. I would stick with the list or a bar separated. So I'll show you the list first. It's asking me now for the values that I want to use for my antibiotics. So I have a list here. I'll just plug it in. Okay. Basic list of antibiotics. And I'll save this. Now I'll come back to my designer and open up the design for my screening form. Scroll down to the bottom, and here's where I want to collect that antibiotic. So if I go to my design, and now if I look at my Ontology service, notice that I have two. I've got not just the bioportal, but I have a site-defined ontology. So if I select that, I can now come in here and pick the ontology that I want. Now I've only created one, but if there were 3 or 4 or 6, they would all show up here as site-defined ontologies. So now I'll say it's an antibiotic, and I'll save it. I'll go to my record status dashboard, open a record here, and now here's my antibiotics. So like any ontology, all you need to do is start typing, and it will begin to autofill for you. So I want vancomycin, but it is looking for what you've typed so far in any of these words, and as soon as I hit a C, you know, it's starting to narrow this down, and I'll add O, and now it knows it's vancomycin. I'll select that, and if I save it, then on data export, it will export the whole name. Okay? Vancomycin is what will be displayed on your export. Now, I've said this many times, and I always try and say it in my class. I find using text is not a good way to go if you can avoid it. When it comes time for analyzation, your statistics manager will, or yourself, is going to prefer something numeric rather than text. So I don't like using this way as well as the other way. So I'm just going to come back in here for the moment and delete this. And I'm going to go to my external modules, and I'm going to reconfigure my ontology. So first I selected a list. I want to select bar separated this time, which shows a value and then what is displayed. So I'm going to replace this list with a new one. And it's the same list of antibiotics. However, and I just created this in Excel and used the one and a bar and the drug, and then did a concatenation of the fields so that I could easily put them in here. So now I've got them in here like this, and I'll save this. I'll go back to my record status dashboard, and I'll open Marilyn Monroe this time, and I've got my antibiotic. Now I'm going to type in vancomycin again, and notice now if I select it, there is a numeric that is being saved, and that is what will export out when you do your data export, and it will be far easier for analysis. So if you can, I recommend using the bar option rather than just the text. Again, I found that easiest to create through Microsoft Excel by having one column as just incremental numbering. The second column is just the bar. The third column is the drug. And then the fourth column uses the equals concatenation of those three fields. And then make sure once you do that, you save that concatenated field as the value rather than the equation. Take that output of the values, copy it into your list, and you're set. So you can use this. I mean, it doesn't have to be antibiotics. It could be a list of people. It could be a list of objects some kind, like, you know, what kind of surgical instrument was used. And I mean, yes, you can use, you can certainly use check boxes. Well, you could use option buttons, but it can get very unwieldy if you had a lot of items to select from. And you could have 1, 2, or 3 of these ontological fields and allow people to select from this list, and it'll just save everybody a lot of time. It will narrow down what their options are. It'll save them from having to scroll through some enormous ontology that includes so many things outside of the range of what you really want to capture. So it's really user-friendly for your people involved with your project. So I like the simple ontology. Any questions?